Hello students, today we are going to do our next chapter, Lost Spring, Stories of Stolen Childhood. It has been written by Anis Chung. Anis Chung is an Indian author, journalist and columnist for newspapers in India and abroad. Born in Rourkela, Anis hails from an aristocratic family in Hyderabad. Her father was a renowned scholar and poet. Her mother and brother are also Urdu poets. After schooling and college at Osmania University in Hyderabad, she went to the United States for higher studies at University of Michigan, where she did her master's degree in sociology and American studies. She started her career in writing with the Times of India publication, where she worked as a journalist and editor. This chapter is a true description of the real life problems of the poor children through two case studies. Introduction about the chapter. This is an excerpt from Anis Chung's book entitled Lost Spring, Stories of Stolen Childhood. It describes the deplorable condition of the poor through two case studies. The first one is about a rag picker boy, Sahib, and the other one is about Mukesh, who is compelled to work as a bangle maker. In both of the cases, the children have been devoid of the right to education. They have also been deprived of their joyful moments of their life, the time when they have to bloom and spread their wings to fly high. Instead, they are compelled to work and carry the burden of their life because of their socioeconomic conditions. Anis strives hard to eliminate child labor by our governments strictly. He also aims to make us sensitive towards the poor. Theme of the chapter. Grinding poverty and the traditions condemn poor children to a life of exploitation. They lose the spring of their life in the breadwinning activity. The message is to put an end to child exploitation. Child labor foregrounds the plight of street children who are forced to lead a miserable life devoid of the opportunity of going to school. Carelessness of society and the political class only add to the sufferings of these poor people. Summary of the chapter. This story starts with a statement, "Sometimes I find a rupee in the garbage." This statement is made by Sahib, a young rag picker. Every morning, the writer comes across him scrounging for gold in the garbage. Scrounging means searching for gold in the garbage. He walks barefooted. He lives in Simapuri. They left Dhaka after their homes in the lush green fields of Dhaka got destroyed by repeated storms. They came to Delhi in 1971 and found their settlements in Simapuri. Then struggle for their basic needs, food, shelter and clothing started. Word gold has been used here by the writer, scrounging for gold. Gold means anything useful they find in the garbage, whether it is a broken toy, a pair of shoes, a coin, and sometimes a 10 rupee note. So, gold for them is their daily bread. It has been used as a hyperbole. Hyperbole is a figure of speech. Just like similes and metaphors, it is used when something is expressed by exaggerating it. Gold has also been used here ironically, for anything useless for others is very useful for them. It is gold for them. When the writer asked him why he does that, he replied by saying that he does not have anything else to do than rag picking. Moreover, there are no schools for children to go. Let's find out what type of life do they lead in Simapuri. There are 10,000 rag pickers in Simapuri. They live on the outskirts of Delhi. They live in the structures of mud, with roofs of tin and tarpaulin. And they live in very unhygienic conditions where there is no sewage, no drainage, and no running water. They have lived there for more than 30 years without any identity of their own. The only identity they have is their ration card, which they use for voting, and in return they get grains for their survival. They pitch their tents wherever they find food, hence they live in transit homes. Meaning of rag picking for elders is different from what it means to children. For elders, it is their means of survival, it is a roof over their head. But for children, it is wrapped in wonder. While struggling for their basic needs of food, shelter, and clothing, their own desires remain unfulfilled, which is reflected at different points of time in the story. No schools. When the writer asked him if he would like to go to school if there is one, he showed his interest in going to school. Hence, the poor children have been deprived of their right to go to school. No shoes. They say that it is tradition in their families to remain barefooted, but the writer feels that it is the perpetual state of their poverty which does not allow them to buy a pair of shoes. An example from the story of Udipi shows how the son of a priest got shoes, but the ragpicker boy remained barefooted. Like to play tennis. Once the writer saw him standing by the fence of a club. He was watching tennis being played by two young men. He liked the game, but he could not play it. He was wearing tennis shoes someone gave him. Probably had a hole or two in them. Lost freedom. In the end of the story, one morning, the writer saw Sahib, who was on his way to milk booth. He was holding a canister in his hand. He started working at a tea stall at the cost of his freedom, his carefree life. Although he got a job at a tea stall, but he was not happy. Maybe the weight of the canister was much more to be carried by this young soul. Let's find out, canister or ragbag, which is heavier. First of all, he got a job at a tea stall. He would earn 800 rupees a month, but he lost his freedom. While scrounging for gold, although there was no fixed income, but the bag was light. Secondly, his carefree look is lost at the cost of his meals, which was seen in his eyes earlier. Next, at this tender age, he was burdened with responsibility as he was working for someone else, whereas when he picked rag, there was no such responsibility. And at last, we can say he no longer was his own master. He was burdened with the weight of canister which belonged to someone else, but ragbag belonged to Sahib. He was his own master. What can we do for these young rag pickers so that they enjoy the spring of their life? As a responsible citizen of a country, if each one of us take a pledge to separate the garbage into dry, wet and waste before we discard it, in this way the rag pickers will be paid well for their collection and their children will be allowed to go to school. Now let us see this video and understand this concept.
Act now.
After watching the small video, let us try to attempt this assignment. Write a letter to the editor of any newspaper giving suggestions for the public to help these rag pickers enjoy the spring, the childhood period of their life. Second is, make a video to be uploaded on YouTube encouraging people to segregate their garbage before discarding it. Get your video approved from your teacher before you upload it. Now let's start with the next story. I want to drive a car. This is the story of another victim, Mukesh, a boy who wants to become his own master and drive a car. He, along with his family, lives in Firozabad and engaged in the family business of bangle making. In the beginning of the chapter, he says, I want to drive a car. He insists on becoming a motor mechanic, but his dream looms like a mirage amidst the dust of streets. None of them knows that it is illegal for children like Mukesh to work in the glass furnaces with high temperature in dingy cells without air and light. Dingy means dark, gloomy cells. About 20,000 children work there, and many of them end up losing their eyesight before they become adults. Now let us know about the life of people living in Firozabad. Living conditions in Firozabad is a woeful tale. They live in stinking lanes choked with garbage, homes that remain hovels with crumbling walls. Crumbling means breaking down. Walls, wobbly doors and no windows. Very unstable doors and no windows. Humans and animals coexist there, means they live together. The narrator sees a frail young woman cooking. Frail here reflects poverty. Mukesh's father is blind, as were his father and grandfather before him. Despite long years of hard work, first as a tailor and then as a bangle maker, he has failed to renovate a house and send his two sons to school. Mukesh's grandmother says this poor state is their destiny, God-given lineage, and they are born in the caste of bangle makers. They work in dark hutments next to the line of flames. They have lost their ability to dream, unlike Mukesh, who dreams of driving a car. Life of Savita and her family. Savita, another young poor girl of bangle makers, is soldering pieces of bangles. Soldering means joining, bonding pieces of bangles. Perhaps she does not know the sanctity of bangles. Sanctity means holiness of bangles she makes. The old woman in her family says that she not enjoyed even one full meal in her entire lifetime. The young men echo the lament of their elders. They have fallen into the vicious circle of middlemen, policemen, moneylenders, the keepers of law, and politicians. They talk of poverty, apathy, greed, and injustice. Daring is not part of their growing up. The author is cheered when he senses a flash of dare in Mukesh, who wants to become a motor mechanic. Now the question is how to break the chain. First of all, cooperatives should be formed where they would be paid genuinely for their products. Secondly, schools should be provided by the government where they get education, learn life skills and bloom, as a result of which they'll get jobs, escaping the cycle of poverty forever. Now based on our second story, let's do this assignment. Divide your class into two groups and using a mobile app, discuss online the efforts you can make to help these bangle makers form a cooperative. Second, write an article to be published in the newspaper on the topic making a cooperative of Bengal makers. Hope you enjoyed the chapter. Have a good day. Thank you.